Welcome to the Accessible Art History YouTube channel. This week we will be discussing the Arena Chapel in Padua, Italy. In the early 14th century, it was decorated with a series of frescoes by Giotto. It is considered to be one of the great masterpieces of the early Renaissance period. Before we examine the Arena Chapel, it is important to understand the man who created the Fresco Cycle. Giotto de Bordone was born around 1267 in Florence, Italy. Details outside of his art are slim, but historians do know that he was married and had 8 children. It is believed that Giotto was an apprentice to another Florentine painter, Cimabue. Both painters went to Assisi to decorate the Church of St. Francis. There has been much debate between art historians of who painted which frescoes. All records were lost during the Napoleonic invasion. Besides the Church of St. Francis of Assisi and the Arena Chapel, Giotto is also famous for his Ognissanti Madonna, the Crucifixion of Rimini, and the Badia Polytip. His style is an essential stepping stone in the history of art. Although there is a slight two-dimensionality, a holdover from the medieval era, the figures in the landscape are much more lifelike. This is because Giotto drew his inspiration from real life and used actual models to help design his work. It was a revolutionary move and forever changed the creation of art. The Arena Chapel was built by the Scrovegni family of Padua. It was attached to their grand palace and got its name from the remains of a Roman arena nearby. But how did the family get so rich? The Scrovegni family were usurers, people who made money off the interest from loans. While this might seem like a normal thing to our modern ears, it was actually a major sin in the Catholic Church. So, to combat this mortal sin, Enrico Scrovegni built a large chapel for worship and family burials. He asked the artists to use the most luxurious of materials, including lapis lazuli, to create the art. This would, in the eyes of the family, help to offset their sins. Giotto created an ambitious and impressive fresco cycle for the Arena Chapel. Instead of just the typical New Testament stories, he also included some from the medieval Book of the Golden Legend. This book contains stories not found in the Bible, including the early life of Mary and her parents, Joachim and Anna. Starting from the top, Giotto painted the story of Mary's parents and their desire for a child. Then he moves to the birth and life of the Virgin. But the majority of the space is dedicated to the story of Jesus' life. He starts with the Annunciation and moves through the tale until it reaches the crucifixion. There is also a large fresco of the Last Judgment on the back wall. We will examine some of the most famous frescoes later in this video. Giotto also included smaller and non-narrative works in this chapel. He painted monochromatic personifications of the virtues and vices. Also included are trompe-l'oeil fake marble panels. At first glance, they look as if they were made of real stone, but in fact, Giotto is just tricking the eye and they are made of paint. One of the most revolutionary aspects of Giotto's work is the depiction of human emotion. For centuries, Jesus, Mary, and the saints were shown with stoic faces and stiff bodies. But because Giotto chose to paint from real life, he included emotions into the stories. The fresco where this can be seen the best is Jesus and the Moneychangers. This story can be found in all 4 Gospels. In this incident, Jesus is at the Temple of Jerusalem for Passover. He becomes enraged because the Moneychangers were taking advantage of people who simply were just trying to make their tithes. Jesus berates them and even flips their tables over. Giotto uses this story to illustrate Jesus' human side and his emotions. In this fresco, he raised his fist threateningly towards the Moneychangers. A flipped table can even be seen in the foreground. The Moneychangers shrink back in terror while the crowd, including Jesus' disciples, look shocked at his outburst. This depiction was unusual for its time because it showed Jesus as angry and threatening, instead of the serene and stoic depiction of earlier icons. Another fresco that is often studied is the Lamentation. In this scene, Jesus has just been taken down from the cross. The disciples, the Virgin Mary, and Mary Magdalene all stand or kneel beside his body, crying and grieving. Beside the sheer amount of emotional angst in this painting, it is also unique because there are 2 figures with their backs towards the viewers. This was virtually unheard of in previous art. It lends a 3-dimensionality to the fresco, something that was rarely seen in art up to this point. Giotto and his art can be considered to be the beginning of the Renaissance. His unabashed use of emotion and new 3-dimensionality created a shift in the artistic mindset of Western Europe. The foundations he created will be used by the great Renaissance masters and beyond, allowing art and the idea of what art could be to reach its limits never thought of before.